Hello there.
Good morning. How are you doing? Oh no, what'd they do? Okay, there. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So,
Great.
I see you're watching from a car. Are you on some sort of laptop at least?
I am not actually, I am coming back from a funeral of the family, but I
Uh,
love the whole topic of the 12-week year. I've read the book
oh,
and
great,
I'm
great.
I'm doing the workbook, and Bob's going to have the recording, correct?
He should, yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
Because I,
I'm
I'm
glad
just
you're doing it because then I can call on you to.
oh
Are you just starting it, by the way, or have something you've been doing
I
for a while?
I read it like 2 years ago,
Okay.
and I I pulled it back out in November, but my December was jam packed with travels on the road for various events, so I didn't get it finished or really read that much. So it's been a while since I've read it, but it's a great book.
It is. It is. Uh, I I put off reading it for a long time. I kept hearing about it, and I really embraced it. And I'll probably share with everybody else. But I had actually presented what I'm presenting today to the coaches. So
Cool.
you're getting like an inside skinny on it. So
So what do you think of the workbook? Because I bought the workbook, like I
I
said,
don't
back
have
in
the
November.
workbook. I think it's a great tool. I mean, I saw where they had excerpts that you kind of get a teaser. I think
Right.
anything that's going to help facilitate you planning it out.
Certainly.
And if you're going to build your weekly accountability groups, that type of thing, I'll get into a little bit of accountability. I'm covering a whole book in 30 minutes plus or minus, depending on the engagement, right? My
Correct.
presentation runs about 30 itself. Um, and, I don't know, Bob's clientele per se. So it might be a little bit above or below where people are, uh,
Right.
you know,
And I'm new to um I just became one of Bob's um coaching members in November. So I'm new to his group, so I'm not sure myself.
okay. So where are you out of, by the way? I see traffic behind you. I was curious where
Uh
people
well
are.
well right now I'm going to have a good time picking on Bob. I just passed the exit to London, Kentucky. but but I'm from North Carolina, Winston-Salem.
Okay.
That's where I'm headed back to.
I see. Okay. How long of a
And
drive?
where about are you?
I'm in California.
Okay. What part?
I am in Southern California and
Okay.
in Palos Verdes area.
Wonderful.
It's a very nice area.
I have a niece in Hillsboro.
Hillsboro, Oregon. Isn't that Oregon?
No, well, there is a Hillsboro, Oregon, but this is down close to Santa Cruz.
Okay. Okay. So that's Northern California.
Right.
All right. I see everybody.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how good the reception was and so on and so forth. And it was a place to park. So I just pulled over and got
It works.
up. Here comes the man.
Yeah.
Good morning. Sorry, I was on another meeting. I apologize for being late. How are you, Coach Camille?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good, good, good.
I'm
I'm so
ready to
sorry.
go. I see Michelle here. We had our mastermind 5:30 my time. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Okay, so that 5:30 mastermind thing, I need
That's
to have one
East
at like
Coast.
1 in the morning.
It's East Coast.
Right,
So
right.
it's really 8:30 there. I'm in California, so it's
I'm on the
5:30.
East Coast now.
You are? I did not know that.
I didn't make a big splash about it. I got out of Texas, and I were staying together for the kids. We're done. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I need to start like a 1 a.m. mastermind because night people need their own mastermind.
You know, you know what? I agree 100%. I know that a lot of training that we've had over the years, we, talk about that miracle morning and all of that stuff. I think everyone's got their own rhythm and you can only fight it and adjust it so much.
Right.
So,
And I'm the type of person, I don't break left-handed people into being right-handed because we don't do that anymore.
good.
I am not going to break a night person into being a morning person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would do a 1 a.m. mastermind.
Okay.
There we go. We got to sign up.
Yay. Okay, Coach, I want to give you the time. I'm so sorry for being a minute behind here. Let's get you in. And just so you know, I'm not allowing AIs in the room. I just don't do that. So.
Okay. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna share a screen. I have a slide presentation. Let's see if I can get this. Sometimes I'm looking off away. It's obviously I have a second screen here where I'm got some notes and such. So it's not like I'm looking off and disinterested.
No, you're fine. We all have this other screen over here we always are looking at. My
All
coaching clients are used to me looking over here and talking to them.
right, so let me bring over my slideshow and see if I can get this dialed into, let's see. Here we go. Haven't, let's see, where is the one where it says start with new? Oops, no, I want this one here. All right, you know what? I think I'm just going to work it off of this format. You guys get to cheat and see ahead, but that's okay. All right, so basically, this is based on the book, The 12-Week Year. Franny and I were talking about it early. So it's a book I had heard about for a long time. And it's like, does that mean you only have to work 12 weeks and you can get done for your year? And it's like, well, yes and no. You really just have an opportunity to get more done in 12 weeks than others actually do in 12 months. The reality, it's a rinse and repeat formula. So, it's broken down. We get to do this 4 times over a year's time. So my goals for today, first of all, I don't know, I know Franny had read it. And Bob, if you can monitor if there's any chat questions that come up,
Okay.
because I got my screen a little too busy for me to subdivide that any further. So you can just say, hey, Coach Camille, there's a question here, and it's just read it.
I will alert you.
Okay, it will be more appropriate to the topic and the slide at hand.
I am rubbish at seeing the chat when I'm presenting as well, so this is all good.
All right, and this runs 30 minutes or so. So
As
we
you
have
wish.
time to do Q&A along the way or afterwards. And I would love to, have you take notes, write down your challenges. Maybe like if some concept comes up, like, oh, she's talking to me, write it down so that either we talk about it here or in a coaching call with you, Bob. So the goals here today is really looking at creating a different mindset around time so that we have greater efficiency and focus. And right now, for all of the expressives in the room, you might be going, right? Just that thought of like, I got to structure things can be a challenge, and be honest with yourself about those things. And then also doing a deep dive into that emotional cycle of change so we can get past the pain that we feel in certain things. And I say also fears and other things that you have to identify to keep going, to get that success and fulfillment that you're looking for. And then lastly, the commitments to yourself in all areas of your life. Obviously we're having a focus on the business side. There's the health side, there's the spiritual side, family, etc. So this does not just apply to business only. So that's my focus here today. So I took this right out of the book. I thought it was so appropriate that we really underutilize our brain, and Thomas Edison points it out. He says, if we did the things we're capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves, right? You've probably heard we only use about 10%, even high producers are only using 10% of their brain. So keeping that in mind, that we can really, build that muscle in our brain to achieve more. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is creating that different mindset around time to get us that greater efficiency and focus. And one of the biggest culprits is that annualized thinking. Right here, we've all just finished our business plans and we got a whole year to get that done. The reality is that kind of thinking loses that urgency that we need every single day. We have to create urgency around what we do. So I put together, some of the myths about that annualized thinking, what that can put us in a trap about, right? We just talked about having that time, plenty of time to make things happen. And then sometimes we think, well, something's going to change in the year. Like right now, we're already experiencing maybe some decrease in interest rates. So you think, oh, that's going to help make us a better year, right? Have a better year. The reality is those are external things that we can't rely on for our success. So let's cross that one off the list as well. Here's where the trap is, where most people fall into, right, is putting off. I can still put these things off and hit my goals. And then what happens later in the year, we start seeing, oh gosh, we're behind, right? So we do this year-end push, and that can work in two different directions, right? By putting the pedal to the metal, obviously sometimes we see those results pretty quickly, so there can be good actions or outcomes from that. However, it's probably going to be too little too late. The reality is mostly what happens is it can actually hurt in our performance, right? I call getting commission breath or something like that, right? Our communication comes from a negative space and scarcity, and sales being a transfer of energy, that scarcity energy scares our clients away, right? So being aware of that. So what we want to do is create periodization. It's a fancy word for time blocking. Okay, like I said, I'm using some of their terminology here. So how that's going to show up in different parts of our schedule is, I always like to use the definition here is like, it's having a really hyper focus. And I like the analogy of an athlete. And many of you may be following, pro football this time of year, right? And you see the skill set in each of their positions, right? And they just practice and rehash so that they are doing the right thing at the right moment. And it takes a lot of discipline, especially to get to those levels, right? So whatever the analogy is for you, to plug that in there so that you can really understand how those efforts give you those outcomes. And it all starts with changing our thoughts. We've seen various maybe circles of that, and it really does start here. So when our thinking shifts, right, it's got to start there. We can't have the action without the thinking, right? And we're going to talk more about vision and how powerful that is. Everything changes, right? So like you're making that decision, we're more positive about our year, and we want to do the right actions. So we got to change our actions to match those thoughts. And then from there, we create that urgency. Some of you may have seen, I use this, I think it's called the Eisenhower the block method, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, I use that as well.
Yeah, urgent versus important. And starting to re-examine sometimes what we give urgency to. I like to give an example of my own personal business when I was, probably even before I was coaching. I like to help people. I mean, then maybe that's why I'm naturally a coach. And I would have agents come and ask me questions, and it was really disrupting my day. So I just put a sign out my office door, and I would just say, I'm prospecting now. You can shoot me a text or leave a post-it on my door, and I'll get back to you later. The reality is the urgency was theirs and not mine. So, making sure that other things don't get in the way of what's urgent to you. In creating urgency, I'm going to use a lot of, the Tom's 554 type of example. That's the, calls to sphere, new, follow up, right? To get that appointment is a lot of times phone calls don't feel urgent, right? That's something we can do later, tomorrow, etc. So we have to create that urgency. And that way, we've called hour of power. I call it appointment setting. It's an appointment to make appointments. Sometimes people want to have kind of a real outcome to it. It's like, hey, maybe that's your Tahiti vacation funding hour. You can call it whatever it is to create that urgency for you. And as I mentioned, this is a rinse and repeat, right? Basically, we have 4 13-week quarters. So the 13th week is to reflect, regroup, re-energize, and refocus, for that matter. All right, so that gets us through the first section already. So we're going to get into the emotional cycle of change. So getting past the pain to success and fulfillment. So we want to create that compelling vision. Tom did a great thing this year in the business plan. He not only had the 1-year vision, he added the 5 and 10-year vision, right? And so I know working with my clients that I will have them go back to that. It's not just how much money I'm going to be making. It's what is my life going to look like in 10 years? It's like really gets an emotional thing when it's like, my family and I are going to get to do a trip around the world or something that's going to give you goosebumps or almost make you cry, right? It's really going to have, that's the compelling part, is that emotional thing. We may put down the logical or the outcome things in writing, but it's going to bring us, joy. It's going to bring us excitement. I think Tom has used the example of, years ago, he talked about envisions like throwing his grandkids up in the air in his house in Jackson Hole. Well, his kids were in their teens, and he it was just a thought. I think he's building a home there now or something like that. His kids are now in their 20s, so he's probably getting closer to that happening, and he just manifests these things. So that's why that vision becomes so powerful. So these are areas where you can go deeper. Legacy. I can't remember her name. I can see her face. I was in coaching for a long time. Bob, you might remember. Sadly, she had lost her son, and her legacy was she wanted to build a YMCA in her area in his name. Do you remember her? I'm sorry, you're talking about, we need to get your audio on.
I'm usually the one telling everybody else I'm muted. I remember her story. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I can see her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will come to me. But anyways, she, that struck a chord with me.
When you have that North Star, when you have that thing you're aiming at, then no matter what you're thinking, you're still working on that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely.
Her North Star was building that YMCA in honor of her son.
Yep.
What is your North Star? And this is something I put in the Team Bob email this week. What is your North Star? What are you aimed at no matter what? Little thing gets in the way today. What are you aimed at? What is your North Star?
And what I say is those days you wake up and it's like, I don't feel like working. Go read this. It's got to be compelling enough to take that action.
Yes.
So, and just to move on into different areas, some of these are combined. I'm pulling these concepts right from the book. I would definitely have a separate health category here, for yourself. But the thing is, your vision is going to be, for your family. What's the house and the community I live in, the schools that they're going to go to, where we're going to travel, making those memories. I think making the memories is kind of the story behind the story. So, right. Car, lifestyle, etc. Spiritually, wherever that is for you. Security, right? If we can have those extra reserves, right, that takes that desperation out of our, our communication, right? So that we're not working from scarcity and that type of thing. And also building for our retirement and what those investments will be. So it gets more tangible, right? If we're
So there's
not
a
even,
question, I'm sorry, Coach. There's a question in the chat. Which book are you referring to? Kimberly was asking. I think Kimberly, did you mean the 12-week yearbook or a different book that she's talking about? Kimberly?
She keeps referring to a book that she said, I took this right out of the book, so I wasn't sure
12-week
what.
year, yeah, 12-week
12-week.
year.
Okay,
This
I
is
missed
all
that.
about-
Okay.
All taken from this, interjecting some coaching stuff and the hows, going a little bit deeper in the time that we have. And
Okay.
also just to, encourage you to create your version of this, yes, but it's all from the 12-week year. If I do reference another book, I'll just state that out loud, but I don't think I have any other references to other books here. All right, and then last item here, excuse me, is this your personal fulfillment? Sometimes we want to get that recognition in our office as that top agent, or just hitting those milestones of financial incomes, 250, 500, a million more, etc. Right? So that fulfillment for yourself there can be important for you. All right, so let's go to the vision and the brain. Oh my gosh, this was an eye-opener for me, that our brain's fighting itself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So we have this part of our brain called the amygdala, and it's built to protect us, right? Risk avoidance, and it reacts negatively to uncertainty. So what is that telling us? We don't like change, right? We don't want change. We want to stay in a safe lane here, right? Then we have this other part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. And that's the growth part that lights up when we imagine greatness. And it's the first step is to, create that inspiring vision here and learn how to stay connected with it. And that's why, you may have heard that term neuroplasticity. That's like retraining those, trails in our brain that we can strengthen this and build the muscle on this side, which will not give as much credence to this side. So this is part of that pain and growth that we're talking about, that we have to work on consciously and unconsciously, by the way. I say unconsciously because I might be jumping ahead, but just a thought that came in that's very important that I mentioned here is, unconsciously we are saying affirmations, and some of them aren't so great every day, right? So we got to catch ourselves. Like when I'm on a coaching call, my client says, I'm no good at that. I go like immediately time out, stop. And we've got to reframe that right away, right? It's like, I'm no good at that. It's like, hey, I'm working on it and I'm getting better every day is a better affirmation than I'm no good at it. So catch yourself. Coach, I'm sure catches you too. I can tell. And, we have to incrementally, that might be the baby step of the day. This is not like a quantum leap. Most things aren't. Most are the baby steps to get to that next and next and next for you. Okay, so tracking and measuring, gosh darn it. And I know expressors are going to get that visceral feeling automatically. By the way, this is just a random thing to show numbers. This has nothing to do with anything specifically we're tracking. So it's my little graphic for this. The reality is we are the CEO of our company. How can we not know our numbers? And I'm not just talking about how much we make. It's the daily actions, right, that lead us to those results. And that's why we have to be tracking largely the leading, and then also to see if we're getting those results of the lagging indicators, right? The leading indicators, those phone calls, the 554, the lagging indicators, the sales, right? And we have to look at, is the flaw, like if we're not having those outcomes we thought, we have to take pause. And that's why we do quarterly reviews, and we have the weekly or bi-weekly coaching to check in more regularly, that we can correct sooner, right? To find if the flaw is in the plan or in the execution, right? The plan might be flawed and it didn't have enough calls to get that outcome. Or it could be in our execution. Like, hey, maybe, Tom says it's 40 to 50 to 1 for, conversations to a sale for the average experienced agent. Your number could be 100 to 1. You only know that by start tracking, right? And the thing is, if you're working on it's a 40 to 1 plan and you're actually 100 to 1, the good news is you're doing the actions, you're doing the quantitative part. So you can, with your coach, work on the qualitative, on knowing exactly what to say, some Phil Jones, scripting, role playing, etc. So there's things that you can do that can still give you that. So you have to be asking yourself this question on a regular basis. Then there's two things that can get in the way of the appropriate action. One is the productive tension, and that is that anxiety that you feel when you know you're not doing what you should be doing. Why do we do that to ourselves? I feel it just even thinking about it. And then we have that productive procrastination. Coach, I'm so busy. All right, well, what are you doing? Well, I was in the MLS and I was doing this, and then I went on a broker's tour and I did this. And it's like, where's the dollar productive actions, right? We're busy. We feel like we had a full day. We're exhausted. But do we have a conversation? Do we do any prospecting? Those types of things. These will both get in the way and stop us from our mission and goal. So I'm just going to check in any questions there before we move on. Nope. Okay. All right. So we got to build intentionality into our time blocking. And there's some very specific time blocks that can help you in building a successful week. So the routine tasks, doing certain things every day, and I'm going to take a moment to review, and you may all know this, but because I don't know the audience well enough, I'm going to go through the daily action checklist according to Tom. Okay. So basically, many of you may have a miracle morning, right? Of your morning routine of working out, showering, eating, right? Getting to the office. This is like next step, next part of the miracle morning is starting your day, your business day, with doing some market intelligence, checking your MLS, a hot sheet, checking your economic reports nationally and locally. That could be, KCM, could be Ivy Zellman, one of Tom's favorite economists, Inman, whatever it is for you. And this is only 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, these are not big time-consuming blocks. And as you get that all set up and operationalized, it should go from that 30 to the 15 that you can check in and know what you're looking for. And that's unconsciously actually giving you sound bites for your day and your week of all great content. Okay, so there is an extra benefit to that. The next thing is I'm a big old school role play and learning and mastering exactly what to say. For those of you that have worked any of the Phil Jones stuff, who was a speaker of Tom's for a full year from Summit 2 years ago to Summit last year. And he has a book, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents, which I think Bob had already mentioned. So there's a book that you want to write down and get if you don't have it. He also did like 4 interviews with Tom October through December of 2022, which are in a loom. You can watch that. He also has an audiobook, Persuade and Get Paid. You can see I'm an advocate of knowing what to say. All right. Why is that going to be helpful? It's just going to make life easier. That is like the number one skill set. I tell people, if you had one thing to do in your business, master that. So the next thing is actually to get on the phones, right? The role play is like a warm up, right? Going back to the sports analogy, right? A batter doesn't go, up to bat till he takes some practice swings. So, this is the same thing as that. So you get on your phone, and if you're not doing 60 minutes, work toward getting on 60 minutes. If you're doing more, great. Okay. So 60 minutes outbound only. Okay. And also, I try to encourage people to not be on calls too long. I know that sounds silly. I would just say turn them into a soft appointment, turn them into a coffee appointment so you can get through your 5 or so calls in that hour. And then also time for your texting, because it's a combination, right? Some people just don't answer phones anymore. We know that's our marketplace. And if they respond in a text, that counts as a real estate conversation. Okay, so we've done the outbound calls. We may have some follow-up in there, like, oh yeah, send me that listing. So we don't want to stop making the calls to send the listing, because then we'll go down that rabbit hole. Write down what you're going to do, and then give yourself another, say, 15 minutes for that follow-up so you get it done. You don't get off your seat and then go, out to an appointment, because we tend to forget, or, we're not showing ourselves as responsive as we had promised, etc. So time block that follow-up in there as well. And then we can get to our social media posting for the day. And then we can check our emails. You notice I put that last, because some people will make that day, that's their busyness. I got stuck in my emails, coach. I just was, started there and couldn't get out. You have to control your business. So that is the routine tasks. Then we have strategic blocks, right? These are our planning blocks for our projects, those projects in the doing section of our board, right? We probably had our business plan in there, the last quarter till we got it done. And the reality is, this says 3-hour block once a week. That's like ideal. I would say for most people, they're going to do better with 2 90-minute blocks. We've all gotten a little ADD. Given 3 hours to one thing can be too challenging for people. So that's kind of my input on that particular block. Buffer blocks. Okay, these are those low value activities that still need to be done. The emails, the voicemails, just 1 or 2 times a day. And this was what they had in the book, the 30 to 60 minutes. I'd say 15 to 30 minutes twice a day. We really want to take control of that time. There's that law that we fill the time that we allot to something. So if we give ourselves so much time, then we use it and we waste it. If like when you go on vacation, how much more efficient you are in getting things done, right? If we could work every day like the day before we go on vacation, we would be off the charts.
That's a really smart. Okay, I'm going to stop you for a split second. So a couple things in the chat, but that is a super smart way to phrase that. We all know what it's like when we're about to go on vacation and suddenly everybody in our list wants to see a house and we're just clicking things off because we got to go catch that flight. I'm going to steal that metaphor from you. I love that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, questions or something, anything else in there?
So in the chat, there was, Leslie says something about a Google Keep checklist that he uses every day, and that he gets a dopamine hit when he gets something off of that checklist done. And Kimberly was mentioning that time blocking the follow-up was a game changer. So good job.
Oh, thank you for both of those. Yes, I mean, I'm going to share. Whatever it is for you, I use this as my little example of the doing, done board for the project side of things, right? It's very simple. It's got Post-its that you can just move over and you can just load up that done side. It's a good feeling. Those are, for me, like when I was tracking and, I was a coaching client just like you initially. And when I would see my phone call numbers, conversation numbers add up, I would get jazzed, and I hit that 1,000 mark and that type of thing. It's like I'm doing the right things. It's a reinforcement. So yes, having visuals. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a little beyond the scope of this. But having all of that tracking stuff up front, your business plan out there that you're reviewing things. I don't know how you do it with your clients, Bob. The marketing that's just the worksheet in there. Right, you got to have that marketing calendar beyond that as an example of other.
Yeah, everybody in my group has a production spreadsheet. We track what their weekly metrics are. We track what their upcoming marketing is going to be. We have the accountability each week of what they should have done. And just what you're talking about, the leading indicators are the quarterly numbers, guys. when we talk about what's our Q1 numbers this week, and we go through and how many calls and how many dials and how many SMS and all this, those are the leading indicators that are going to indicate that you're going to have things move up through the funnel and have closings. And the
Absolutely.
number of people in your funnel, minimum number of people in our funnel should each be 15 at all times. When you have a funnel stacked up with 70 people, I know you're going to have a banner year. When you have a funnel with 3 people and you're struggling to tell me anybody you've talked to, that's where we got to like kick in. And all these things that Coach Camille is talking about are incredibly important.
Yes, you call funnel, I say pipeline. Yeah, we have the same thing. I probably have that conversation almost every call, just a moment on that. And then, yeah, how are you going to, if you're running short, adding to that. All right, so here's something that I found a little bit different. And I kind of was doing this by default sometimes when I was working long days and, long, those 7-day weeks, right? Is sometimes we need a breakout block to not work, right? We need a break, right? Because we build up, and we've all had that feeling, that cortisol taking over our body. And it just, our head is spinning, whatever those physical effects you feel, pay attention to them, because that's a warning. Is like, you're getting to burnout. You got to take time, whatever it is for you, to reinvigorate. It might be just going for a walk. It might be, having lunch with somebody that's totally non-business, whatever. It's good to use when you have a long day. Almost think of it as like a mini vacation within your day, so that you give yourself permission to not work. And then little pro tip I added here is scheduling those most important activities during your prime time, right? We have energy cycles. We started the call today talking about night people and day people, right? I remember a story when I was newer to real estate of this guy that used to come in at 7 o'clock at night or whatever, 6, 7, make his calls for a couple hours, go home, right? That was his prime time. And he actually connected with a lot of people, because that people are more likely to answer the call than when they're at work and can't. So, making sure that you do that. Now, sometimes we do have to make the calls not in our prime time, like, because I am a morning person, like Bob, and I like to get them out of the way. The reality is, like I just said, some people will never answer the phone between 9 and 11, right? So one day a week, I actually made evening calls for a couple of hours. It was not my favorite thing to do, but I knew that if I wanted to reach out and touch those people, I'd have to, right? So just, once again, keeping that in mind here. All right. So I'm sure you've heard this quote once or twice by our lead coach. Are you interested or committed? This is my segue into the last thing, is our commitments to ourselves in all areas of our life, and how to plan and execute that. So as I mentioned, we have this emotional cycle of change, and this is really going to be the difference maker. And, it's kind of a perfect time of year. Sometimes we enter a year, we're all optimistic and great things are going to happen. We're going to have these numbers 4 or 5 times of what we did last year, right? And, then things start happening. It's like, well, gosh, I thought, I was going to get more sales because interest rates went down. And, I'm really not making as many calls as I should. And boy, I'm really kind of bummed out because this is not what I thought. And I know what's going on, but we continue down into the valley of despair. So, right, that's where we are feeling, I want to quit real estate, or, this market sucks, or whatever is going through your head, right? All the negative, it's all negative, right? In your coffee, pot hanging around, commiserating with those other agents that are there as well. And the thing is, we can change. We can change. We know what we need to do, right? We put on our big girl pants, big boy pants, and start doing the thing, and we start seeing some results. And it's like, oh, yeah, just getting into action, we know is going to make us feel better anyways. Doing the right action is going to help us keep moving up right? And now we're seeing the results. So we have this informed optimism, and that keeps us moving forward, right? The momentum, the actions, the feelings we get from doing that. Now, going back down here is another direction that some people take, is they know it's like, hey, let me take off, a year, 3 months, a month, whatever it is, right? And I'll start all over, right? That just gets us back here, right? We're feeling good, we're optimistic, but we're kind of still clueless as to what it's going to take for us to succeed. I want to just pause here because I think this is profound. I want you to maybe, anyone want to share where this has happened to them, where they may have had a success story breakthrough. If not, I'll move on. But I think this was one of like most profound slides that when I was reading the book, connected with me because I've seen it. And Tom has this similar version he calls the J curve, and he probably got it from this book. So, all right, I will move on. And if something comes to you and you want to share before we're done this hour, then we'll do that. So I'm going to go through these 8 fundamental elements. Some we've already talked about in some capacity. So I'm just going to go through and review the ones quickly that we've already discussed, right? The vision, as I talked about in the business plan. We've got the long-term, midterm, right? 10-year, 5-year, here it says 3 years. Now we can also, even between the 1 year is the 12-week goal, have micro goals, right? That are easier to reach. That's another benefit, right? We have a big goal, it's harder to see the path. When we have these incremental goals, it's easier to see the path, right? So the planning, so this is just an example from the book, and then I know it's super small, and that's not all that important. I just the format is. So they have a similar acronym. I'm sure we've all heard of SMART goals. They've combined 2, and they've made 2 A's. So goals should be specific, right? Real clear as to what that is, and that they're measurable, right? They're measurable into like how much, and right, and then the time sensitive is by when. You want them to be in the affirmative, right? Maybe you have a health goal. You don't want to say, I'm not going to eat sugary foods. You got to put, I'm going to eat healthy foods only, right? That's the difference, right? Don't put the no's and the nots. And I know that we do an exercise in the quarterly review of the do more of, less of, start and stop doing. So in the stop doing, we really should reframe that into an affirmative. And I say, like, if it's a stop doing, like, stop scrolling through Instagram, right? Who's not guilty of that? Okay. So anyways, instead of that, it's like, okay, maybe you caught yourself, wow, I was going to do 5 minutes and it's been an hour. What are we going to replace that hour of, time with, right? Because it's like when we want to quit something, whatever it might be, we have to fill that void, and people don't realize that. This is something I've learned. This is not something necessarily from the book. So sharing a little Coach Camille wisdom today. And so keeping that in mind. So the accountability part, I'm going to go in a little bit more on the next slide. However, that's key. That's one of the reasons why you're in coaching. It's also a weird thing how our brain works. We know that if we do the thing, we have the power, that's Tom's thing, but we get that nice big fat paycheck at the end of that rainbow. That sometimes is not enough motivation, right? The accountability is like, if I told my accountability buddy, partner, that I was going to do something, I'm going to feel crappy if I don't actually do it. That has more power than that $20,000 paycheck we can get on the other side of the rainbow, right? So keeping that in mind. And then we want them to be realistic, right? It's like, for, new into real estate, we had a good starting year, but to, 20x that might not be a realistic goal. Now, however, some people, and through my coaching experience, they like a stretch goal. They say, hey, that would be a miracle if I made it, coach, but it's going to make me work harder. So I respect and appreciate that. And we know that. I have some clients that hate stretch goals. It's almost backfires for them. They say, that's so far, it just discourages me. So you got to know yourself when you make these goals, which direction you want to go, and work with Bob on that. And as I mentioned, everything should have a deadline, right? I showed that doing done board. I actually tell my clients, even on those little Post-its, if that's the format you're going to use, but the day you put it on the do board, put a new date on the day you put it on the doing board and the date you want it done. So you have little deadlines for yourself. So that project isn't just sticking there forever, right? All right. So then basically tracking and measuring again, can't get rid of that, right? To making sure things going along. So you can get a group and have a weekly accountability meeting. And in the book, they go through a much more of that kind of that chart on the other side. Actually, let me go back to, what was it? Oops. Here. Okay. So I did not spend time here, but you want to put your little goals here. And for each goal, you want to have your tactics. I mean, it's very similar to your business plan. This has, the business side, it has a health goal here and a relationship goal here. So just to show you that you can work and so they actually give, weight to that. All right. So, oops, okay. So there's this kind of a scoring thing. And I think Franny said she had the workbook. So I think you'll see some of that measurement in there. And guess what? We do not live in a world of all or nothing. Okay. And that's where a lot of us get discouraged, right? We want to make this perfect week. We have a great day. Next day it falls apart. It's like, well, that doesn't work, right? So we just give up. It's like, they found out that if you're working 85% or higher, you're on track to make that 12-week goal. And I'm going to say, if you've never done any of this before, give yourself kudos for doing 25, 45, 65, all those incremental improvements, right? It's not like I didn't have a 100% day, but maybe it was a 65% day, right? Better than nothing. All right. And then planning your week every week. Okay. So we talked about using those various time blocks, wherever you're planning. Some people like the Friday afternoon, the Sunday afternoon or evening, the Monday morning, whatever works for you. Putting in those 1 3-hour or 2 90-minute, planning for your projects, your SOPs, so that you're going to spend more of your time in the dollar productive activities than the back office stuff, right? Buffer blocks, the 15 to 30 minutes, I'm correcting there, right? For the emails and voicemails and stuff. The breakout block for those long days. And then, of course, the all-important activities. Your calls, your appointments, for lunches, your coaching. I'm going to just give a quick sidebar on a coaching hack that I remember Tom talking about, what he did with his coach. And I've encouraged my clients to do the same, is right after your coaching call, you should be time blocking to start implementing your homework, if Bob hasn't already shared that with you. That's what Tom does, right? Obviously, he plans. He has his time beforehand, right? Doing his prep, writing down all his questions for his coach, has his call, and then does his follow-up, right? Because a lot of the stuff is we're delegating anyways. So I wait to day 6 or day 13 before your next call to do the thing. I was guilty of it too. I started out as a core client. It's like, oh shoot, I have my coaching call tomorrow, right? And then I realized how stupid that was, and I would start on it right away. So just a little pro tip on that. Okay, so here is an example, super small, and Bob, I'm going to be happy to share the slide with you, and you can share it with your coaching clients. An example of kind of a perfect week. Okay, so it does have the components in some format. You know, there's a kind of a miracle morning component of it. There is a daily action checklist component of it, right? Then the meetings that they have. And here's appointments every day, time for it. And if you don't have appointments, guess what you get to fill it with? More prospecting. All right. And then there were other things. This person had a networking meeting once a week. They're coaching here. They did 2 90-minute project times, as I mentioned there. And then a couple other weekend, you know, real estate showings, open houses, reviewing financials, satisfying their spiritual commitments to themselves, allowing themselves a little bit more sleep on a weekend, right? So we want some balance in these things. All right, so commitment. We're getting down to the end here. So commitment, and I just stole a quote from them. It says, the state of being bound emotionally or intellectually to some course of action. And I would rather they had put the word and, because we know that we need that, you know, logic makes them think, emotion makes them act. Right? We think about that for our clients and making them, you know, move forward in their buying or selling. It applies to us as well. You need both components. I actually remember when I was in the Phil Jones certification training, he said the same thing, and it really resonated with me. So I'm sharing that with you. So when we acknowledge our accountability, our focus shifts from defending our, well, it says our actions, our old habits, right? And let's learn from them, right? Hey, that habit may have worked for you for a reason, right? But it made you kind of be defensive about that, right? Maybe you were in that productive procrastination mode, or that one with the tension. So, and you defended yourself there. And being aware of some hidden intentions, right? I had some notes I'm gonna just elaborate here. So the strong desire. The strong desire will show up in how the goal is written. Remember we went through those SMART goals? If they're wimpy goals, it's going to show up there. Share these things with Bob there. The keystone actions. Asking yourself also, what will have the greatest impact? You know, I'm going to go back to, you know, Tom I've seen time and again at events, right? No matter where the market is, he always goes back to the foundations of the 5-5-4 type of thing. You know, or addressing yourself. What am I going to do more of less of start and stop doing? Those are some of the keystone actions. Counting the costs. So remember, some of the things that we're committing to, we're going to have to give up something else, right? Just the example of the Instagram scrolling, right? When we give up that, you know, there's a cost to that, but there's also a benefit from that too. So, right, it might be, hey, I'm committing to work more hours, so the cost is less time with family right now. And how am I going to come to terms with that and have them help me and support me, right? Sometimes that's what's holding us back. It's like I come home, my spouse is mad because dinner's not ready or whatever. You know you're recording in your head there, so I will leave that for you. And then acting on those commitments and not the feelings. That's sometimes the biggest challenge. No, that is the biggest challenge, because the feelings go to the mindset, right? And you know, we say that 80% of what we do is through our mindset. So that's a really big part of that. So got a couple minutes left. I'm going to stop the share. And, you know, if there's questions, if there's sharing that, like what you got out of it, or what you want to commit to doing. And we have a nice little accountability group here that you can share and have. We got, you know, 14 accountability partners to help you through this. So,
Who wants to jump in?
I love the fact that you distilled everything so concisely. A lot of the things that you mentioned I wasn't doing that I did start doing, like the time blocking after my calls, because a lot of times there are action items that we need to do, and sometimes we pack a little bit too much in our schedule, so we don't get to it, and then things can fall through the cracks. My goal at the end of last year was this year making sure that fewer things fell through the cracks, and part of it was adding those follow-up time blocks following certain time blocks. And then you've got a lot of other things here that need to be distilled for us to utilize. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and doing so.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm glad you got some takeaways from it right away. Anybody
So I'm a big checklister person. So I'm the ADHD gifted real estate agent. So for me, I have a daily checklist. These are the things I do every day. And here's why. Because when I got into this business, I could do a whole bunch of things, but I didn't feel like I did anything because those are things I just normally do sometimes. And I just didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything. So I started doing, here's what I do every day. Here's a checklist. Then I create a checklist either the night before or the morning of. Here are the things that are not on this checklist that I'm going to accomplish today that aren't daily things. And as I go through and I check them off, I know. And if I get distracted or I find myself, suddenly I have time to scroll on TikTok, I remind myself to go to my checklist, what have I not done? And by the end of the day, I can see, look, even though I may not have felt like if you're not closing a deal that day, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're really, really getting anything done. So for me, I feel like if I've got this list going and I check out and I just reset it the next day, and I feel like I've made some ground movement. Whereas before I did those things, but and some of the things on my daily list I don't want to do. And it makes me feel accomplished because I actually do them. And by the way, I walk my dog about 4 times a day. I take those.
Well, I'm a checklist person, and I find when you write them down, you get more done because it's
Yeah.
there. It's a reminder. It's like, the items 5 and 6 were forgotten about otherwise. And it just it's like a you versus you every day. Hey, what if I got all of these done? What would it do for me? And that gratification. And that's something I forgot to mention in terms of helping shift that mindset. Obviously, it's maybe overplayed in terms of how it's just thrown out at us. I have a gratitude journal. In the days I actually start my day doing that, I start my day with so much joy.
Yep.
And it carries through because we've got a lot of crap either in our business, in the world,
Yes.
etc., right? And it's like I put on my armor. It's like gratitude is like an armor, a shield of armor. And then once again, the affirmations for yourself, doing those and positive. I will share something I did when I was a coaching client, and I had kind of a accountability group of sorts. We actually did a 5 o'clock. Here's the morning person. Maybe you do a 1 o'clock in the night, and we would do affirmations for each other. Like Bob, I would do your affirmations, and I would say, Bob, I know you are an amazing coach. You give your heart and soul to your clients, and that type of thing, which I know you are. That feeling you get is so much more powerful than even saying it to yourself, right? Sometimes you're saying words to yourself, and the other part of your brain, the drunk monkey, is going, you're such a phony, right? You're having this mini dialogue. No one's ever had that happen to them, right? So things that you can do to, work that mindset. I went through a challenging time for no particular reason. It was just an elongated pity party I had for myself when I was coaching client. And my coach said to me a couple things. She said, one thing is, so what is that doing for you? And it really made me think, right? It was defending that negative space, right? And I had to admit that to myself. Another thing she helped me do is compartmentalize. There is another book, The Untethered Soul, I think it's called, where he talks about taking that thing that's going on in your life, right? And we all have it, just fill in the blank, putting it in an invisible box, putting it on the invisible shelf, and then get to work. Because it will be there, it'll be waiting for you when you're done, right? And then the third one, she had this thing about kind of a pattern interrupt. There is a quote from, what is that movie? Scarlett O'Hara. What is it? Gone with the Wind. She says, I'll just think about it tomorrow.
Mhm.
And it's like when I would get into that space about whatever I was thinking about, it just made me smile and laugh. And I actually put it up. I had a whiteboard, and it was a great pattern interrupt for me. So there's all sorts of, I'm going to call hacks, whatever, to help you get refocused, help you with your mindset, and those types of things. So anything else, Bob, you want to chime in?
One of the things that I loved is the baby steps idea. We should not be like trying to radically change our lives in a day. It's little tiny incremental changes over time. And then holding to those and being militant about those changes. The other thing is the analytical thinkers who will sit there and not move because they just haven't thought it all the way through. And I love my analyticals. I love you, but we got to get in motion. You're
Yeah,
not the
they're
only one,
great at,
Kimberly. You're not the only one, Kimberly. I'm waiting for the rest of them to raise their hands. But, yeah, you know who you are.
Yeah, and and part of that is there's a lot of fears you need to unpack.
Yes.
And just call them what they are. Could be fear of success, could be fear of failure. I'm going to leave with a personal story here to, like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I am the fourth out of 6 children. I grew up in a household of kids should be seen and not heard. And here I am in sales. What the heck, right? So I had to overcome that limiting belief message for years. And I was not, I did not enter into real estate as a great communicator and all of those things. These were all learned skills for me. And so, I'm actually a driver analytical. It's kind of a weird combination. And so, we can take whatever our behaviors profile is and still succeed.
Yes.
And learn tactics. Now, the thing is with analyticals, which makes it harder, is you are so internally driven that it is an energy drain to talk to people. Just knowing that it's going to help you, say, okay, I'm going to do this for an hour, and then how am I going to go re-energize myself, right? So, like I said, take where you are, and just work with it. You're not going to. We can. Our discs can and do change over time, and even in environments. I used to actually teach a disc class, and one morning before I was teaching, I said, "Oh, let me do one of these," before, and I was like showing up like as an amiable.
Oh, wow.
Amiable.
Can we all thank Coach Camille for a second here? I got to jump. We're right on
Yeah.
time.
Oh gosh, it's already 9 o'clock.
Thank you all so much.
All right.
And I'll put the recording out for this in a day or two.
All right. Bye-bye.
So sorry, Camille.